गुड इवनिंग फ्रेंड, वेलकम टू अवर चैनल एग्जामपुर आईएएस इंग्लिश मीडियम। आप सभी का हमारे परिवार एग्जामपुर में स्वागत है। सो वी आर डिस्कसिंग द मोस्ट इंपोर्टेंट करंट अफेयर फॉर यूपीएससी मेंस 2022। Hereby we are going to discuss the current affair and we have to cover all important dimensions that has the possibility that you will get the questions in mains. So the first topic is your net neutrality. Net neutrality, okay. Net neutrality. Mridul, do you know what is net neutrality? What is net neutrality? Do you know? Any idea regarding net? Please do let me know. Any idea regarding net neutrality? What is net neutrality? First of all, we will discuss the context why the net neutrality was in question. Apart from that, after it we will see what is net neutrality. Net neutrality will through some example. So you can see the context like the net neutrality debate has resurfaced in the country as the telecom operators are backing a proposal to regulate content delivery network which was used by global big tech companies to host data locally. Now, listen to me carefully. It is in the news because the telecom operators like Airtel, Idea, whatever it is, the telecom operators, they want to support content delivery networks. They want to support the content delivery network, ठीक है ना, that have been used by the global big companies. Now, what content delivery network is? You might be knowing that data is a new oil of the 21st century. Apart from that, we call it a big data. So, data is very much important for any type of industry. So, content delivery network जो है, they are basically providing the data. They are basically providing data. Now, we can see that basically modern news telecom operators say that telecom operators say that content delivery network which were kept out of the TRAI's 2017 recommendation on net neutrality need regulatory re-examination as internet companies start to tie up with a specific internet service provider to deliver high quality services to certain group of customer. Okay, now what is there in TRAI's 2017 recommendation? Okay, let's listen to me. TRAI's Telecom Regulatory Authority of India 2017 recommendation that what should be followed for the purpose of maintaining net neutrality. In net neutrality, content delivery network was not there at that time. Content delivery network was not there, but in today's scenario, you can see that internet service provider they are supporting the content delivery network. So content delivery networks will also be included in the net neutrality. So this was in news. Now we have to see what is net neutrality. Suppose basically company is there. Okay, now you have Jio. Suppose what is net neutrality? Okay, suppose you have Jio SIM. Now what you will do? You will provide free internet service. Suppose if you are suppose you have the Jio SIM with you, and there is a certain, suppose if you take the plan of 599, you will get 1.5 GB per day. 1.5 GB per day. Okay, 1.5 GB per day. And you 1.5 GB per day. Now you might be knowing that out of 1.5 GB, we are consuming 1 GB on YouTube. 1 GB on YouTube. Now what? 1 GB on YouTube. Now Jio company जो है ना, Jio company, what it will do? Jio company says that if you take the Jio SIM, you will get YouTube browsing free. Are you getting my point? Suppose you have taken the plan of Jio of around 599, so definitely you are going to get 1.5 GB per day. But on an average, you will see that out of 1.5 GB, 1 GB is regularly spent on YouTube. It's true. Now Jio proposed that if somebody takes the Jio SIM, he will get YouTube completely free. Okay. Now Jio gives. Now suppose Jio gives YouTube completely free. Airtel it is there. Airtel provides Facebook free. Okay, Facebook free. Is it okay? So now what will happen? What will happen? What about the other sites? What about the other sites like Instagram? Instagram is there. Okay, lots of other social media sites are being there. Apart from that, lots of other YouTube like sites are there. Okay, now what about those sites? What about those sites? This YouTube is having the money. YouTube is having the money. It has given to JioSIM, and Jio जो है in turn gave YouTube free. What about the new companies? They do not have the money. So they do not have the money, so they cannot pay to this, and they cannot pay to internet service providers. So ultimately, their sites will get damaged. Nobody is going to browse on their site. So ultimately, for the proper growth of each and every organization, in a such a fashion that discrimination policies are not being adopted, net neutrality is the need of the hour. Is it clear? मृदुल clear है? Is it clear? Is it clear, Mridul? Okay, so what is net neutrality? If Jio is providing YouTube free, if you take JioSIM, Airtel is providing Facebook free, what about the other side? They will get neglected, they cannot grow. So because of that, net neutrality is the need of the hour. If you are providing YouTube free, give other side free, otherwise same charges will be applicable, so that each and every organization grows simultaneously. Okay, so that is called net neutrality. And in 2000, and in Telecom Regulatory Authority of India in 2017 recommended certain points which should be included in the net neutrality, but at that time the content delivery network was not in use, and because of that the content delivery network was excluded in the net neutrality, and because of this much of the internet service providers, they basically want to support the content delivery network. ठीक है? So we have discussed what is all about net neutrality. Net neutrality is the idea that internet service providers should treat all data that travel over the network fairly. That all the data, whether it is Facebook data, Instagram data, Twitter data, other social media data, news channel data, whatever it is, they must be treated fairly, they must be treated equally. If 1 GB of data is being consumed on Facebook and 1 GB of data is being consumed on Twitter, they should be charged equivalently, they should be charged equally. All the data flowing over the same network, they should be charged equally. That means that this is ensuring net neutrality without improper discrimination in favor of particular application sites or services. It means ensuring that all end users are able to access the internet content, application and services at the same level of service quality, speed and price. Each country adopts different responses to the issue. When you talk about countries which have taken no specific measure, we have to, there are certain examples in which these are the certain examples of countries where they have not taken the issue of net neutrality. So countries which have taken no specific measure are being undertaken belongs to Australia, Republic of Korea, New Zealand. On the other hand, countries that have adopted light touch regulatory method, that means these things are being regulated but they are not being stringent enough. So European Commission, Japan and UK, and we are going to discuss about those countries which have taken the issue of net neutrality equal. Each and every country, they have to take the issues of net neutrality on a serious matter, so that the other new ventures they can develop and they can compete with the other organization. ठीक है? Now please do let me know, can you quote certain example? If the net neutrality was not being issued, if the net neutrality was not being ensured, whether example could have grown? Just think of it. If the net neutrality was not being ensured, could example have grown up to this level? No, because suppose Idea, Airtel, whatever they will provide internet free of cost for the purpose of YouTube, for the purpose of this thing, for the purpose of this thing. In particular, YouTube, particular sites, news channel. So ultimately, the persons who are having the mobile, they will pursue internet when it is free. It because of net neutrality that we have seen that how online education sector they have grown very rapidly. So now countries that have taken up or proposed to take specific legislative measures are Brazil, Chile, France, Netherlands, Singapore, USA rules. Mechanism, just a moment. Okay. Mechanism for establishing guidelines ensuring net neutrality in India are at present mainly enforced by TRAI, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. TRAI means Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. Now, what is the requirement of net neutrality? Already we have discussed that it is because of the net neutrality, new ventures, new organizations, they are being growing, they can compete with the earlier organization. If net neutrality is not being ensured, it will be very difficult for the newer ventures, for the new companies to compete. Just a minute. लो बेटे, दिखाएगा बंद हो जाएगा, बता रहा हूँ नहीं बैटरी पूरा फुल बैटरी नहीं, कोई बंद हो जाएगा, बंद खत्म हो रहा है। देखो ना, कोई और देखो तो बैटरी कणों के रूप में आती है। जहां तक बात की okay, extremely sorry. Okay, so we are discussing regarding, please do let me know how net neutrality, it basically ensures freedom of expression and free speech. Suppose if net neutrality is not there and certain internet service provider, they are providing free access to certain sites like YouTube, Facebook, whatever it is, but other sites are there. Suppose new websites, new social media sites are there in which you have posted certain things, or that is against the government. What those internet service provider will do? They will block those content. They will slow those websites. So ultimately, it is what? If you are slowing those websites, that means you are going against the freedom of expression and free speech. Now, supporting innovative ideas. net neutrality has enabled an ecosystem for creation of Google, Facebook, Twitter, and countless other services. It is because of the net neutrality. It is because of the net neutrality that these organizations are being proliferating and these organizations are being growing. All these services are very humble beginning. They started as a basic website with modest resources. If you think of Google, if you think of YouTube, now if you think of Google, and if on the other hand, if you're thinking of YouTube, just think which website should grow. It's which site should grow. It's naturally YouTube, because on YouTube you are getting entertainment. Apart from that, you are getting the visual aspects. But when you talk about the Google, you are not getting any type of such thing. But this site also grows. It's because of your net neutrality. It's because of net neutrality. Okay. Now we have to see what are the arguments against net neutrality. We have discussed why net neutrality is required. Now we will see what are the arguments against net neutrality. So you can see that priority based service, data packets of different applications, data packet carrying emergency service information versus another packet carrying video information need differently type of treatment. So on the other hand, now we have to discuss what arguments against net neutrality. Suppose if you take the example of YouTube on the one side, just listen to me. I'm just going to quote 3 examples so that you can understand the argument against the net neutrality. 3 sites are there. First of all, on YouTube, certain movie sites. On YouTube, education sectors, and there are certain porn sites. Okay. Now, if the net neutrality is not being provided, you can curtail you can slow down the speed of porn sites. So porn site will get eliminated. That is the benefit. Apart from that, when it comes to compare the YouTube and educational sites, you can provide certain free data access to the educational sites, because of which free educations can be provided in the country. But because of the net neutrality, such thing cannot be done. So this is the best example of priority based service. Limited bandwidth. Unlike infinite resources, the bandwidth of the net is limited. If someone is using a Skype on YouTube, he needs a lot of bandwidth, and that too on priority. It can be argued that he should pay a higher price. Now, suppose if you talk about the Skype is basically utilized for the purpose of visual chat, or for the purpose of visual communication. It is being particularly used by the organization for the purpose of interacting with the employee. So you can see that if the net neutrality is not being provided, Skype is being basically used by the software companies for the purpose of communicating with the employees. You charge higher, not an issue, but we need a Skype. So because of this, these things are not being utilized on a proper level. Illicit content. When you talk about the illicit content, offensive, dangerous, illegal content is accessible to everyone, difficult to remove. Already I have discussed, if the net neutrality would not have been ensured, it was being possible to remove it. Lack of new infrastructure. With net neutrality, large amount of data are consumed without being paid for. This money could have been used to expand the high-speed network to rural areas. So these are the certain disadvantages of net neutrality. Now, way forward, because whenever we are discussing anything for mains, we should inculcate way forward, so that, because you have to practice answer writing. So user rights on the internet need to be ensured, so that internet service provider do not restrict the ability of the user on the internet. Okay. So ultimately what? Ultimately we are talking about the user rights. User rights means I am having the right that I can log into Google, log into YouTube, log into certain other sites. So my own rights should not be curtailed. It must be ensured. Internet service providers should make adequate disclosure to the user about their traffic management policies, tools, intervention practices to maintain transparency, allow user to make informed choices. Everything should be informed. Prioritization of government information in times of public crisis is certainly important. Yes, one thing must be remembered, that during the time of crisis, net neutrality should be avoided in that particular sector. Suppose when you talk about the Jammu and Kashmir region, you might be knowing that 4G is not applicable. 4G is not applicable in that region. Apart from that, they are also utilizing 2G, in which the internet service is low. And apart from the 2G, if certain cases are being found in which the new Islamist or separatist groups are being recruited, and they are being recruited on Facebook by the process of radicalization. So at that time, net neutrality can be avoided, and we can stop Facebook in that particular reason to ensure the safety. Okay. Now the issue is regarding darknet. Is it clear what is net neutrality? Please do let me know. So we will discuss regarding the darknet. Medul, now it is clear what is net neutrality? बताइए. Is it clear? बताइए. Now we are going to discuss darknet. What is darknet? So you can see that first of all we have to discuss the context in which the darknet is being resurfacing in the news. The context surrounding is Germany has shut down Russia-linked Hydra market, considered as world biggest and oldest darknet marketplace of illegal items and services. So you can see that Germany जो है, it has shut down Russia-linked Hydra market in because this Hydra market जो है, Hydra market in which illegal items and services are being provided, and this Hydra market is being accessed through darknet, and because of this the darknet was being shut down by Germany. So now we have to discuss what is darknet. Darknet होता क्या है? What is the purpose of darknet? What is its application? And apart from that, we will see also the initiatives that are being undertaken by the international as well as the Indian government for the purpose of controlling darknet. So darknet refers to encrypted network on the internet that are not indexed by search engines such as Google, Yahoo or Bing. So suppose whatever the content you are getting on the Google, it's belong to the surface web. Are you getting my point? Whatever the content, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, whatever you are searching, UPSC examination, whatever. So whatever you are searching, whatever you are searching and you are getting it on the Google, that means it is indexed to the Google. So that is your surface web, Yahoo, Bing. But if certain thing cannot, if there are certain sites which cannot be accessed to the Google, there are certain sites which cannot be accessed to the Google, that are basically what? That belongs to the darknet area. That means for the purpose of visiting darknet, you do not have to go through the Google, Yahoo or Bing. Okay, there is different websites. There are different surfacial webs responsible for your darknet. So it is a layer of the internet accessible only by using a special software like Tor. So the onion Tor is just like Google, Tor is there. Just like Google, Tor, the onion router is there. Okay, so just like Google, you can visit the site of Tor, and in Tor you can visit Tor belongs to the darknet area, and it is being used by the criminals. For the illicit activities. So through Google, Yahoo, Bing, you can whatever the sites you are pursuing, that's your surfacial sites. But with Google, Yahoo, Bing, you cannot go for the darknet area. For that, a special type of software is being required. That particular software is called Tor. Tor, the onion router. That means just like onion, many layers are being there. Many layers. You have to remove those layers for the purpose of reaching to the darknet area. These are networks that are only available to a select group of people and not to the general internet public. So this darknet, it cannot be available to the general public. This belongs to the particular group of people. Just like research. Suppose I am doing certain research on certain thing. So my research should be made private. It should not be revealed to anybody. If somebody knows about my result, if somebody knows about my research, it will be made public by him. So all my effort I will lose it. So ultimately, what I'm going to preserve the data, my thesis on darknet area, so that nobody will know about it. Apart from that, suppose if the raw agents are in Pakistan, now how they will communicate? They will communicate with the help of darknet, because the normal people cannot pursue darknet. Okay, so in authoritative regime, even in the authoritative regime, things are being communicated by the process of darknet. The term darknet and dark web are occasionally used interchangeably but with subtle difference in the meaning. Darknet is a network built over the internet. So darknet, when you talk about the darknet is a network built over the internet, whereas dark web refers to the website. Dark web refers to the website. Now we will see what is the difference between dark web, darknet, deep web and surface web. Darknet, deep web and surface web. Okay, so you can see that darknet is commonly confused with the deep web. The deep web refers to the unindexed sites which are unsearchable. In most cases, this is because these sites are protected by password. Just already we have discussed that when you talk about the deep web, you cannot pursue the deep web with Google, Yahoo or anything else. These things have been protected by the password. This thing can be accessed by the special website called Tor. Part of the WWE World Wide Web, which is not indexed by a search engine like Google, is the deep web. It is about 500 to 600 times larger than the surface web. You can see that this is the picture. Okay, this is the complete picture. So the top portion is a surface web. This portion, whatever, this is the portion. This portion is called surface web. This portion is called surface web. Surface web, in which this is indexed with Google, Yahoo, Bing, Facebook, Twitter. You can perceive it over here. This complete area, and after that, this particular area जो है, it belongs to the deep web. मतलब 98%, 96% of the area belongs to the deep web. And in deep web, you are having the dark web. In deep web, we are having the dark web. And to pursue the dark web, you need a special type of software called Tor. Is it okay? So now we will see its application. So you might be knowing that surface web, basically whatever, suppose if you're watching the lecture, it's on the surface web. If you're pursuing something on the Google, it's belong to the surface web. Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is, they belong to the surface web. But when we talk about the deep web, so here what type of things are being carried? Academic information. Suppose if you're doing certain type of research, it will fit to the deep web, not to the surface web, because if you're feeding to the surface web, it is open to the public. The public can take the data, and before publishing your thesis, the thesis could have published earlier. So academic information, medical records are sometimes put on the deep web for the purpose of maintaining the privacy. Scientific reports, subscription. When you talk about the dark webs, so dark web when you talk about the dark web, it is particularly being used for the purpose of communication in the authoritative region, for the purpose of yes, ठीक है, चलिए, okay. Now we see that darknet itself is only a part of deep web. Is it true? Already we have seen that this is the surface web. This complete area belongs to the deep web, and this particular area just belongs to the dark web. Now, what is the concern? What is the concern that is being related to the dark web? So you can see that it is being used by the journalist. Citizens working in oppressive regime to communicate without any government censorship. Researchers and students, they do research on sensitive topics, law enforcement agencies, etc. However, it is surrounded by concerns over anonymity, haven for illicit activity, privacy, ethical concerns, use of cryptocurrency, drug dealings, arms trafficking, communication terms. So you can now this is a much important. What are the concerns that are being associated with the darknet? First of all, darknet जो है, it is used for certain good purpose, like you're preserving your thesis, medical records are being preserved. ठीक है ना? Thesis is being published over the darknet, but there are certain concerns associated with the darknet too. First is what? Anonymity. मतलब whatever the transactions is being done over the darknet cannot be known. Apart from that, terrorists also, they communicate to each other by the process of darknet. ठीक है ना? Cryptocurrencies, they can also be transacted on the darknet. Terror financing, they can also be done by the darknet itself. So these are the certain concerns that must be removed. Okay. Now a little bit we'll see regarding the Tor. So Tor is what? We'll talk about the Tor. Through Tor website, you can open the darknet. Okay. So Tor, that is called onion ring. The Tor browser was developed in the mid 1990s by the United States Naval Research Laboratory employees to protect US intelligence communication online. And through Tor, we are able to visit the darknet areas because the darknet, they are not willing to Google, Yahoo or any other sites. ठीक है ना? Now we have to see what are the steps that are being undertaken. What are the steps that are being undertaken by the government for the purpose of controlling darknet? What is those steps? So international collaboration in strengthening cyber security framework to deal with the challenges posed by darknet, because you might be knowing that lots of transactions are being conducted in the darknet, like terror financings, cryptocurrencies, which is very difficult to track. So to track those things, cyber security should be strengthened. Skill manpower is required. Okay. Investment in research and development and training and capacity building of personnel in the field of cyber security. Amendment to the Information and Technology Act, Evidence Act to deal with the new age cyber crimes. A code of criminal procedure dealing with the cyber crime that would come under the Ministry of Home Affairs, which deals with the policing issues. So these are the things which we should ensure for the purpose of controlling darknet. ठीक है? Is it okay? Any doubt? Any doubt? Please do let me know. Mridul ji, now is it clear? Clear? Okay. Now we have to discuss regarding internet service that will be provided with the help of satellite. ठीक है? Okay. So now let us know why it is there in the news. Recently, the government issued a public advisory to stop Starlink internet services from offering satellite-based services in India and asked citizens not to subscribe. You might be knowing, listen to my words, you might be knowing that Elon Musk has launched a project called a Starlink project in which thousands and thousands of satellites will be parked in the low Earth orbit for the purpose of providing internet service. Okay, now please do let me know internet service through satellite, basic concept of internet service through satellite. Basic concept of internet through satellite. Internet through satellite. Internet through satellite. ठीक है? Is it okay? So please do let me know what is the difference between if you park the satellite in the geostationary orbit for the purpose of ensuring internet and if the satellites are being parked in the low Earth orbit. What is the difference? Midul ji, please do explain. If the satellites are being parked in the geostationary orbit on the one side and on the other side the satellites are being parked in the low Earth orbit, what is the difference in the internet service? Please do explain, then only we can move towards the satellite through internet services. Generally, listen, what happens, suppose this is the Earth surface, This is the Earth's surface. Now, at a height of around 36,000 kilometers, at a height of around 36,000 kilometers, an orbit exists. This orbit is called geostationary orbit. Geostationary orbit. Geostationary orbit. Okay. And if it is having certain inclination, it is called geosynchronous orbit. If certain inclination is there, it is called geosynchronous orbit. Suppose now if a satellite is parked over here, if a satellite is parked over here. Okay. So first of all, you must be knowing what is geostationary orbit. If the satellite is parked at a height of around 36,000 kilometers, the relative velocity between the Earth and the satellite is 0. I mean to say, suppose this is the Earth's surface and this is the Earth's surface, and this is the position of satellite that has been parked in the geostationary orbit at a height of around 36,000. The speed of this satellite and the speed of the Earth is same. So relative velocity is 0. Relative velocity is 0. Okay. Relative velocity is 0. And because of relative velocity is 0, this satellite can directly provide internet to this particular area. Okay, because this particular satellite will always remain as stand still with respect to the Earth, because the relative velocity is 0, and because of this the satellite can cover this area, and it is being approximated that around 3 satellites that is being parked in the geostationary orbit is being enough for providing the internet service to the complete world. Okay, ठीक है. Now what happens? So uninterrupted supply of internet can be provided. Uninterrupted supply of internet can be provided by satellites in geostationary orbit or geosynchronous orbit. Okay, but there are certain issues associated if the satellites are parked in the geostationary orbit. First is what? First is your speed is bit low. Apart from that, latency is very high. Latency means what? Suppose if you're sending the comment and I'm receiving the comment, sending and receiving, in between sending and receiving, there's a delay of around 20 milliseconds, or there's a delay of around 600 milliseconds. Generally, there's a delay of around 600 milliseconds. So it is called latency. Okay? And it has been found that if the satellites are being parked at a height of around 36,000 kilometers, so suppose if you have to send the data, again you have to receive it back, it takes time. So latency is very high in this regard. Latency is almost 600 milliseconds, more than 600 milliseconds. So latency is very high. Latency is very high. Okay, more than 600 millisecond. Okay, take it. On the other end, when you talk about the advantage, the advantage is what? 3 to 4 satellites if being parked in geostationary orbit, they are enough to cover the entire surface of the Earth. Advantages. This is your problems. Okay, now we have to discuss regarding the advantages. So what is the advantage? Advantages. First is your uninterrupted supply of internet, because the satellite remains stationary at a particular position. Uninterrupted supply of internet. Uninterrupted supply of internet. Uninterrupted supply of internet, because the satellite remains stationary at a particular position. First point. When you talk about the second point, what is the second point? It is being calculated that only 3 geostationary satellites are sufficient to cover the entire surface of the Earth. 3 geostationary satellites. 3 geostationary satellites are sufficient to cover entire surface of the earth, to cover entire surface of earth, to cover entire surface of earth. ठीक है? Is it clear? Now we will discuss regarding if the satellites are being parked in the low earth orbit, what is the advantage, apart from that what is the disadvantage. Is it clear? Please do let me know. Just comment once. Okay, clear है? ठीक है. Now we will discuss satellite internet service provided if the satellites are being parked in the low earth orbit. Okay, internet service provided internet services provided if satellites are being parked in the low earth orbit. If satellites are parked in the low earth orbit, satellites in low orbit, satellites in low earth orbit. Okay, so in this regard what happens, this, suppose this is the earth, and let us consider the low earth orbit in forms of polar orbit, and this is a polar orbit. Now what happens, if a satellite is being parked over here, you have seen in the case of geostationary orbit, you have seen in the cases that if the satellites are being parked in the geostationary or geostationary orbit, they remain permanently fixed. Because the relative velocity of satellite and that of the earth is 0. But if the satellite is being parked in the polar orbit, you know, polar orbit, what is its speed? It completes one revolution around the earth around 90 minutes. One revolution around the earth, in 90 minutes. Because you must be knowing if the satellites are parked in the low earth orbit, they have to counteract with the stronger gravitational forces. Are you getting my point? If the satellites are being parked in the low earth orbit, they have to counteract with the stronger gravitational forces of the earth, and to counteract with the stronger gravitational forces of the earth, they need very higher orbital velocity. So if the satellites are being parked in the low earth orbit, their orbital velocity is very high. The orbital velocity is such high that they can complete one revolution around the earth in 90 minutes. Now think of this satellite. Do you think that these satellites can provide internet service? No, it cannot provide the internet service, because suppose this is the satellite, and this satellite is being parked in the low earth orbit, and it has to provide internet service to the Delhi. Now what will happen? Now this is the condition. It will pass Delhi within 5 minutes. So just from here to here, it can provide the internet service to the Delhi. Just for 15 minutes, it can provide the internet service to the Delhi itself. So okay, so this is the problem. Now we will first of all discuss the problem related to. First of all, we will discuss the problem. What is the problem? Orbital velocity is very high for satellites parked in the low earth orbit. Orbital velocity is very high. Satellites parked in low earth orbit. Okay. Because of this, the dwell time of the satellite is very less. Because of this, the dwell time कहने का मतलब होता है if the time for which the satellite remains over a particular position, that is the dwell time. And you have seen that if the satellites are moving at a speed of around 90 minutes, if the satellite takes around 90 minutes for the purpose of complete revolution around the earth, it will stay over the Delhi just for 15 minutes. That means it will provide internet just for 15 minutes. Okay. So second is your dwell time is very less. Dwell time is very less. Okay. Now third, now how we can solve the issue of dwell time? Saurabh Kumar Singh ji, please do let me know. You have seen that the dwell time is very less if the satellites are being parked in the low Earth orbit. Now how we can rectify this problem so that the uninterrupted supply of internet can be provided? बताइए. So that the uninterrupted supply of internet service can be provided. बताएं. The only solution is what? Suppose this is the satellite. Suppose this is the position of the Delhi, and if the satellite crosses Delhi within 15 minutes, मतलब within 15 minutes from here to here. So how to provide the continuous supply of internet? If the satellite crosses this region, another satellite should be here. Another satellite should be here for the purpose of providing internet service. And if the satellite crosses, again another satellite should be there. That means what? To increase the dwell time, lots of satellites should be parked. So what is the problem? Lots of satellites should be parked. Lots of satellites should be parked for lots of satellites should be parked for continuous supply, uninterrupted supply of internet. Uninterrupted supply of internet. Uninterrupted supply of internet. And one of the more issue that is related to this is if more numbers of satellites are being parked in the low Earth orbit for the purpose of providing internet, it may lead to Kessler syndrome. Okay. So other is your Kessler syndrome. Okay. Kessler syndrome. Now we will see certain advantages associated with if the satellites are being parked in the low Earth orbit. Advantages. Now what is the advantage? First is your speed of the internet is very high. Speed of internet is very high. Second is what? Second is your speed of internet is very high. Second is your latency has been dropped. Latency dropped from 500 millisecond to 20 to 30 millisecond. We have seen that the time period of latency if the satellite is being parked in the geostationary orbit is your 500 millisecond. But if the satellite is being parked in the low Earth orbit, the latency drops. What is that latency? 20 to 30 millisecond. So this is all about the internet services. This is all about internet service provided if the satellite is being parked in the low Earth orbit. We shall continue this session tomorrow itself. Again tomorrow we are going to continue the current affair of science and tech. At the same time, please do join our session. Okay, if any doubt, please do let me know. Saurabh ji, कुछ doubt है आपको? Please do let me know. Okay, any doubt? Please do let me know. So, thanks a lot everyone. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.